What's up, Facebook? Happy Thursday. Hope you guys are hanging in there, doing all right, making it through the week. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know. Maybe it's not for everybody, but my week seemed to be flying by a lot more quickly. I don't know. Maybe because some days I don't even know what day it is anymore. Days kind of blend together a little bit for sure. Turn some light on in here. There we go. So I'll wait for some of you guys to join in. So I don't know where everybody's tuning in from, but I had snow this morning. That was kind of crazy. All sorts of snow flurries out there. It's very bizarre to look out the window and see that, since it's been spring like the past several days. And now the snow's stopped and the sun's back out. So I think the I think the earth is kind of, out of whack too a little bit. So many of us are, and so many of our lives are kind of turned upside down right now. So that was my thought process of the random snow this morning. But anyways, I see that a couple of you are joining on here now, so feel free to check in. Let me know how you've been doing. Let me know how your day's been so far, what you've been up to, what you've been doing to keeping yourself busy and healthy. We'll kind of get right into the reading today. So I really encourage you guys to please comment throughout the reading here, and just engage with me. That's always my favorite part is, reading people's comments, and that, so often like really changes the way our discussion goes on here. And I've really been enjoying it. We've had some really powerful ones the past couple of days too. It's been great. So we'll get right into our book discussion today. So for a little bit now, I've been reading to you guys out of the book Tribe of Mentors by Timothy Ferriss. Some of you guys may recognize his name. He was the best-selling author of The 4-Hour Work Week. Pretty cool book as well. So I always like to give you guys a little bit of backstory too on what we're reading about. So Tim Ferriss was kind of at a point in 2017 where he had kind of hit this mental wall. He was turning 40, and there was a lot of different things going on in his life. He says, as often happens at forks in the path, college graduation, quarter-life crisis, midlife crisis, kids leaving home, retirement, questions started to bubble to the surface. So Tim started asking himself some of these questions. Were my goals my own, or simply what I thought I should want? How much of life had I missed from underplanning or overplanning? How could I be kinder to myself? How could I better say no to the noise to better say yes to the adventures I craved? How could I best reassess my life, my priorities, my view of the world, my place in the world, and my trajectory through the world? So many things, all the things. So one morning he started writing down all of these questions, and he was actually filled with a lot of anxiety. He was just feeling very overwhelmed. So he paused for a minute and he asked himself the one question that helps answer many others. What would this look like if it were easy? This could be anything. That morning, it was answering a laundry list of big questions. What would this look like if it were easy? It's such a lovely and deceptively leveraged question. It's easy to convince yourself that things need to be hard, that if you're not redlining, you're not trying hard enough. And I very much relate to that in a lot of areas of my life. I take it in, we talked about fitness a little bit the other day. And for me, during my fitness, my workouts, if I'm not redlining, if I'm not pushing myself to the point of, my body not being able to handle it or getting sick, then I'm not trying hard enough. It's that mindset that some of us get stuck in. It's very easy to convince ourselves of that. Tim Ferriss says, this leads us to look for paths of most resistance, often creating unnecessary hardship in the process. And I don't know if any of you can relate that, if you can look back into your own life and also maybe relate to that mindset, that we choose the path of most resistance, not least resistance, and we create unnecessary hardship for ourselves in that process. So anyways, Tim had kind of gotten this idea of, what if I assembled a tribe of mentors to help me? He wanted help answering all these questions that he was facing at this very turning point in his life. More specifically, what if I asked 100 plus brilliant people the very questions I want to answer for myself, or somehow got them to guide me in the right direction? And he had no idea if that was going to work or not, but he went for it anyways. So what Tim did was he sent an identical set of 11 questions to some of the most successful, wildly varied, and well-known people on the planet. And he asked them to answer your favorite 3 to 5 questions or more. And he waited for a while, and not hearing a lot back right away. But eventually, a lot of the replies started to come in from all these well-known, famous individuals. And a lot of people reached back out, and he received back some of the most thoughtful answers, whether they were on paper, in person, or otherwise. And he said, in the end, there were more than 100 respondents. So the rest of this book is actually, in the beginning, there's a list of all these very well-known, very successful, very intelligent individuals. And all their responses to these questions that he sent to them are listed in this book. So what I've been doing is going through some of the questions from this particular set of 11 questions, picking one, talking about it, and then reading some of these individuals' responses. And they've been pretty interesting. I've been kind of flipping through the book and, reading all these people's different responses, and they're so varied, and it's just so interesting to me to read them. So I've been sharing them with you guys, and also been posing the question that we're focusing on for the day in the chat. So I'm going to do that again today, and I really encourage you guys just to comment in the chat. You can talk about the question that we're discussing today, or anything you want, within reason on there. And as always, I just really continue to encourage and ask you guys to be open-minded. In the past couple of days, we've had a lot of people open up on the chat and be really vulnerable and really honest, and it's been such a beautiful experience, honestly. A lot of people are getting connected in that way, and I think maybe really getting in touch with themselves that way, by being vulnerable and honest on here. And I've really appreciated it for all of you who have joined in and commented and maybe gone back and watched the videos later. It's been a really cool experience. So I ask you guys to be open-minded and, of course, always respectful on here. And, I hope that you guys are able to comment on here a lot today. So today's question, and I'm going to type it in the chat real quick. All right, so today's question was number 6 out of the set of 11. And what is an unusual habit or an absurd thing you love? So today I really wanted to have fun with this. I know that there's a lot going on in the world right now, and I don't want to minimize any of that. This is a very hard thing for all of us. Obviously there are certain people in, a little bit harder of situations, will have a lot more barriers than the rest of us. And I really feel for those people, absolutely. But I feel for all of us. We're all having to cope and deal with this in a really different and difficult way. So I don't want to minimize that. Hey, Nelly, glad you're back on here. So I don't want to minimize that, but what I wanted to do today was really keep today's discussion on a really lighthearted topic. And that's kind of why I picked the question. It's kind of an odd one, right? And I'm sure instantly as people are reading that, what is an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love? I'm sure there's a lot of funny things coming to mind right now. So as you guys are commenting, I ask you to be as appropriate as you can on here. There are funny things that pop in our minds sometimes. But let's keep this an open, friendly discussion. But again, I really wanted to focus on the positivity and more so the lighthearted answers that I picked out for today and sharing my own. So normally when I would go through these questions, I would have picked somebody off the list of the 100 individuals that Tim Ferriss sent these questions to. So what I did today is I actually went through and picked like 5 or so different people, and just because their answers are all so different on here, and they're just kind of really funny to see what unusual habits or absurd things that people love. I think as humans in general, we're all pretty fascinating and all have absurd things that we do and that we love, and we're kind of quirky in a way, and you know what? It's a cool thing because it makes us who we are as individuals, right? So I would love to hear from some of you guys the unusual habits or absurd things that you love on here. So Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and read you the ones I picked out. So it is more than one today, but again, we're gonna kind of go through those quick, and I would love to read some of yours too. So this first answer is from Bozoma St. John. She's the chief brand officer at Uber, and before that, she was a marketing executive at Apple Music. So her answer to today's question: what is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love? She says, I love to people watch. I can literally do that all day long. It's fascinating to watch people go by. There's so much you can learn about a culture by just watching its people walk with each other. Great places to people watch are food courts in American malls, street corner cafes in Paris, the market in Accra, fashion etiquette, PDA. All of it can be learned and make the observer a more respectful participant in that culture. And I thought that was kind of an interesting one too. Jake's just joining on here. Jake, glad to have you back. So that was just kind of a funny one too. Again, I really want to keep today's focus on a little bit more lighthearted answers. Just, I think we all could use that kind of boost of a smile or a little laugh. It's especially in these times right now. So I thought that one was kind of funny. Like, I've definitely been guilty of people watching too, and it is fascinating. It's very fascinating. Malls are definitely a good place to do that. Can you guys think of anywhere else, an interesting public place that you would normally people watch? I think it's pretty, and again, this is like non-COVID world, like in our normal lives where we can be outside and actually observe people. I always think Wegmans or grocery stores are interesting places to people watch too, and more so to see what people put in their shopping carts. It's always interesting to me. So that was one of our first answers for today. The second one I picked was from Graham Duncan, is the co-founder of East Rock Capital, and that's an investment firm that manages $2 billion for a small number of families and their charitable foundations. He has also, he started his career by co-founding the independent Wall Street research firm, Medley Global Advisors. He's also a Yale graduate, just to give you some background on him. So Nellie responded, bus stations. Yes, definitely another good place to people watch for sure. Absolutely. So Graham Duncan's response is, what is an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love? Graham says, I wear a Subpack M2 wearable physical sound system while I commute on the subway to my office and sometimes while I work at my desk. So I didn't know what this system was that he was referring to until I continued to read, but basically it's this, the system lets you feel the vibration of music through your body. So it is, it's in a sense, something that does play music, but it's more on your body. Music producers, gamers, and deaf people are the primary users. So that way they can feel the vibration throughout their whole body instead of just listening to it through headphones. But Graham says, I find the full body experience of music makes listening to music, or even a podcast, more of an immersive somatic experience rather than just a conceptual head thing. I thought that was a really cool answer too. That was a really unique thing. First of all, I've never heard of that technology, but it's really cool that they have that. But I think about that in the sense too is, for me, I love listening to music. I put on different music, multiple times throughout the day, depending on my mood or depending on my task. Especially if I'm working out. I'm somebody who really enjoys loud music and a lot of the bass vibrations while I'm working out too. So I just thought that was just such a cool, for him, that was an absurd thing that he loves. He just wears this device as he's, commuting to work. But he just says that it's an overall immersive experience rather than just listening on your headphones. So I thought that was another really interesting one too. And the answers that I picked today are all very different from each other, and that was intentional, just because, again, we're all humans and we all have different likes and different things that we enjoy and that we're interested in, and again, that's what makes us unique. So all of today's answers are very different from each other. The next one I picked was from Veronica Belmont. So she's a bot-obsessed product manager in San Francisco. She works for Growbot, helping to make sure employees get the recognition they deserve on their teams. She also helps to admin botwiki.org and botmakers.org, which is a huge community of bot creators and enthusiasts. She's also a writer, producer, and speaker. So her answer, what is an unusual habit or an absurd thing that you love? This one I really like. I take photos of dogs and post them to the dog spotting Facebook group. There are elaborate rules that you have to follow. Must be a previously unknown dog. Always try to crop out people in the picture. Beware of low-hanging fruit dogs, which is a photo taken in a place where seeing a dog would be expected, like dog parks, etc. I find it weirdly cathartic, so much so that I started a mini podcast on Anchor.fm called Dogs I've Seen Today. I'm finding my bliss, I guess. I thought that was a really kind of a fun one too. I guess it's kind of along the lines of people watching, right? But it's kind of dog watching, and more so taking photos of random dogs that are not your dogs, and then she's uploading them to this Facebook group. And the fact that there even is a Facebook group that exists for people to upload random photos of random dogs is kind of a funny thing. It is a little absurd, but for you dog lovers and animal lovers out there, I don't know, maybe you enjoy that kind of thing too. So I just thought that was kind of fun. And now that I'm thinking about it, dog watching, whether you're out at a park or, your friends' dogs you get to play with, that is also, a kind of fun thing too, is right up there with people watching. Sometimes I think I enjoy watching dogs more. They're definitely entertaining. I know some of my friends out there who do have puppies can definitely relate to being entertained by watching your dogs. All right. So the last one I had is from Lewis Cantley. Lewis Cantley has made significant advances in cancer research stemming from his discovery of signaling pathway. Something else I can't pronounce in here, some medical terms. His pioneering research has resulted in revolutionary treatments for cancer, diabetes, and autoimmune diseases. So that's a little bit of background on Lewis. And his answer... Did I lose it? Nope. Oh, it's also totally on the wrong page, apparently. So his answer, what is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love? He says, meditative dishwasher loading. I love loading a dishwasher while I think through a problem. It's Tetris with the dishes and silverware. So again, another one of those absurd things that is really just kind of very random and very, again, trying to keep it in that lighthearted spirit. And I guess I can relate to that too. I'm not a big fan of doing housework. I don't know anybody who absolutely loves doing housework. Maybe there are a few of you out there. Maybe that's your absurd thing. But if I am doing certain tasks, I don't have a dishwasher. I am the dishwasher. So if I am at home washing dishes, or if I'm, sweeping and about to mop the whole house, for me, I actually try and zone into it. And I love that he says that. He loves loading the dishwasher while he thinks through a problem. And that can actually be one of those mind-numbing activities where if I'm just stressed out or I'm feeling anxious, I can pick a task for the day, and it can be a house chore, right? Because I'm accomplishing something, I'm getting a part of the house clean or something taken care of around the house, and I'm also kind of de-stressing myself a little bit by practicing mindfulness, being completely focused on the task at hand, and putting all of my effort into that task so it gets done well. So I just love that. So those, again, I picked a whole bunch of different answers today just because they were all very random and all very different, and all kind of lighthearted too. So I'm going to go ahead and answer the question real quick, and again, I would love to see some more of you guys comment. The question is posted in the top part of the chat here. So I had a couple answers for myself of unusual habits or absurd things that I love. These first two are two different tasks, but the meaning behind them is the same. Prior to working at Recovery, I've done cake decorating and making pastries for quite a few years. And periodically I find time to engage in those things again, but I personally love decorating, cutout sugar cookies. But I do it I hand pipe everything with pastry bags, and I do it with the smallest tiny tips possible. And it takes a really long time, and my hand starts cramping, and I can spend hours and hours and hours in a couple days making these very intricate, beautifully decorated cookies. And, that kind of ties into the next one. There's a small journal I keep, maybe about this big, and periodically I'll write in that. But what I'm writing with is it's one of my favorite pens that I use. It's like a micron pen, but the millimeter of the pen tip is 0.03 millimeters. It's extremely tiny, like the head of a pin. And it's kind of along the same concept of decorating cookies in that sense. And when I write, I'm writing as tiny as possible. And I do that intentionally. It's one of those, it's kind of an odd thing, you know, there's my absurdity in it, but it's something that I love doing because I can be fully immersed in this project, its task, whether it's decorating cookies or writing as tiny and as neatly as I can. It's just something that forces me to slow down and be mindful in the task that I'm doing, right? Because both of the projects that I'm working on, both of those projects are very detail oriented, and it's kind of become a craft. And, you know, I'm a very detail oriented person, so I love putting all my energy and just focusing on this tiny little thing for a while. And it does keep me busy. It kind of gets me out of my head and my funk sometimes. You know, I'm able to just focus on this task and create these beautiful things. So those are some of the absurd ones. The other absurd thing that I enjoy, and I'm sure there's a lot of you that can relate to that. I talk to a lot of friends. For some of you Netflix watchers out there, I don't spend a lot of time on Netflix, but you know, the times that I do, I have an interest in watching some of these documentaries about, you know, serial killers and things along that nature. So that's kind of an absurd thing that nobody likes to talk about, but I'm going to throw it out there because I know a lot of you can relate, and you know, gonna be vulnerable about talking about that. But those documentaries and learning about, it's more so learning about people's histories and their lives, and, you know, where things kind of started to turn in some of these infamous people's stories, and kind of like the brain chemistry behind that is what really kind of fascinates me in a way. So those are some of the absurd kind of odd behaviors that I enjoy, my unusual behaviors. So I'm definitely want to get into what some of you guys are saying. So Jake is sharing, I was watching people at rehab, not in a judging manner, but I was noticing all these addictive behaviors. Common complaints like, this is all the food I get, or this food is garbage. Basically nothing was ever good enough, or just enough in general ways, wanting more. Yeah, and that is definitely another place that's interesting to watch people. You know, I think there's some an interesting thought behind that too, because, you know, oftentimes we relate to people who have a similar history or who have similar habits, or, you know, just like-minded people. And there can be a positive thing, like, you know, the theme of recovery, you know, us being able to get up and get active with a group of sober individuals, you know, that's a whole bunch of like-minded people coming together, right? So it's very interesting, at least under my understanding anyways, but to be able to watch people who have had similar behaviors as us, whether we're doing the same things currently or that's not part of our lives anymore, it is interesting to watch other people's addictive behaviors too. Absolutely. There's a curiosity behind that, you know, why we do the things that we do. You know, interesting. Another one, Jake writes in, something unusual I'd like to do is go for a run after midnight. Mostly because I don't like people watching me run or exercise, but it's where I find peace and I'm at my comfortable place. I like that. That is interesting. I wouldn't have think of that. I guess because I live in the city, I don't really trust running around my neighborhood at night. But I guess it also depends where you live and your own comfortability level too. A lot of people can relate to that. I hear a lot of people say that they don't like to go to public gyms for that reason, because they don't like people watching them work out or exercise. You know, there's a lot more people who feel very comfortable working out at home, you know, where no one else can watch them do silly things. So yeah, that is interesting. Going for a night after midnight. Very cool. Nellie writes in, my unusual habit is that I have really bad OCD, so I refold my laundry every day and clean every single day. Just a little thing that I clean makes me feel accomplished. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's kind of back to talking about the guy who was talking about how he loved very methodically loading his dishwasher, right? It's kind of a game of Tetris that he was playing in his head. But it's a task that we can do, right? You know, whether it's something you struggle with and you feel you know, need to refold the laundry 10 times, or if it's just something that, you know, kind of keeps you occupied for a little while, we can find a silver lining in that, right? And part of that is this mindfulness practice, which, you know, I loved. I was able to take a couple groups back when I was in outpatient, and, you know, a big chunk of one of those groups was mindfulness. And it can be something so simple as, you know, like I remember doing a practice where we would eat a piece of chocolate, and you're just sitting still, you're doing nothing else but being mindful and practicing using all of your senses to describe what it's to describe the experience of eating this piece of chocolate. So you're smelling it, you're able to touch the chocolate, you're able to see what it tastes like, what it feels like as the chocolate is melting. And all of a sudden you realize, like, wow, like I literally just stayed focused on eating this piece of chocolate. And that's mindfulness, like I remember doing that, and all of a sudden all the other noise, all this other brain noise, we talked about the squirrels the other day, all the squirrels got quiet. All the outside world I was able to tune out because I was very focused and present on this one task that I was doing. And we can practice mindfulness anywhere we go. One of my favorite ways to practice mindfulness is to be out in nature. And again, it's not as easy right now with everything that's going on. But in my normal non-COVID life, I love group hikes too, but there are times where I love going on these little loner adventures and practicing mindfulness. Just looking at my surroundings, listening to all the noises, all the birds, just being very focused on what's going on right now. And I find when I do that my anxiety just goes down, and I'm not so focused on all the things that are out of my control, all the worries. So it's just a really cool practice. So even refolding the laundry every day, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing that we struggle with. It can be a task that you're literally putting all of your undivided attention into and doing it to the best of your ability. That's mindfulness. Nellie says, prison was also a good place to people watch. I did that for 2 years. Amazing the things you find out about people. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like we said earlier, like people watching in general is just fascinating. We're, as human beings, we are just very fascinating the way we move through life. And it's very cool to see the way other cultures do things too. It is, because a lot of cultures are very different than our American culture, and our behaviors, our interests, our social norms, the way we interact with each other, our body language, all of that. It's very interesting. So no matter what kind of setting you're in, even if it is prison or rehab, or we talked about the malls or bus stations or any public place, it is kind of fascinating just to watch people and their mannerisms, and it's not meant to be in a mean, rude, judgmental way, but there's a curiosity behind it, right? We kind of learn a little bit more about other people. It's kind of fascinating what you can learn without actually talking to somebody, but by watching the way that they move through the world. It's very interesting, for sure. David writes, I like going and watch trains. Just something about it gives me peace and I'm able to clear my mind. Yeah, absolutely. That is a really cool thing too. So I guess my encouragement for you guys today is, I had to think about that one for a second. What I really wanted to get at was behind today's discussion is to get you guys to focus on something else other than COVID. So I hope I was kind of able to do that in a way, right? And for those of you that commented, you did get away from the COVID world for a minute. We were able to talk about other things. And that was kind of my goal for today, is to just focus on like a lighthearted question, some kind of absurdity and weirdness to it. We can all kind of get a little chuckle or a smile out of that. And again, that was what it was really about today. So that's kind of my challenge going forward. One is going to be, if you do have those unusual habits or absurd things that are healthy for you, I encourage you to spend some time doing those today. People watching is not obviously an option right now, unless you're watching out your window from home. But whatever it is that can engage you basically in some kind of mindfulness practice where you're completely focused in the task that you're doing and you're letting go of all your outside worries and fears and anxieties, that's what it's really about. So that's what I want you guys to focus on today. And it doesn't even have to be an unusual or an odd habit. It can be a hobby. It can be something that you truly enjoy, something that you're really good at it, something you excel at. We can engage in any of these activities at any time throughout our day, especially now with all this downtime, right? So I encourage you guys to get back to those things today. Just really spend some time and kind of practice that mindfulness and keep today lighthearted. Think about those questions. I'm thinking about this now. Can you pose that question through a text or a phone call to some of your friends? Can you ask them, hey, what are some of those unusual, odd habits that you love, those absurd things that you do? We can get to know people that way. And again, it just kind of brings up some fun, lighthearted conversation. And that's the whole goal of it, is to keep ourselves busy let go of this giant external thing that's weighing on top of all of us right now, and find some of those lighter moments throughout our day. So I'm going to leave you guys with that today. I also want to encourage you guys to please continue to reach out to us at Rock Recovery Fitness, especially if you are looking for peer services. We are still engaging with people that way. So if you or somebody else is interested in peer mentor services, please reach out to us. If you go on our Rock Recovery Fitness Facebook page, you can find the phone number and the email address that you can get a hold of us that way. Please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here. And all lightheartedness and kidding aside, if you guys really are struggling, please reach out. We want to be here for you. We want to connect with you. And I hope that you guys can continue to tune into the rest of our videos. If you are new here today, welcome. I'm glad you joined in. Thank you guys for participating. And also we have on our Rock Recovery Facebook page, as well as our website, you can see the full list of virtual videos that us at Rock Recovery Fitness are continuing to put out every single day for you guys, and to be here and connect. So I hope you guys can continue workout coming up for you later this afternoon, and we have Yana will be on live tonight as well. So yeah, I hope you guys can keep joining us. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you guys, and we really enjoy watching you guys connect. And it's been really great to watch new people come on here too, and reach out, and just connect that way. And look, you did something positive for a whole half an hour. If all you've been doing all morning is worrying and full of fear and anxiety, and you just joined into this video, you just spent half an hour not worrying and being mindful and engaging in something else positive. So that's always cool too. So we will see you guys. What is today? Today's Thursday. So I will see you guys tomorrow afternoon. And have a great rest of your afternoon. Bye.